Hello and welcome to our Business Roots Chat. I'm here today with Gillian Leslie, who owns and runs Bridge Dental Care in Trinent. Gillian, hi, how are you?
Hi. Good, thank you.
Excellent. So tell me a little bit about Bridge Dental Care.
Bridge Dental Care is an independent dental practice, which is mainly NHS but also private. We offer all aspects of dentistry, including implant dentistry, cosmetic dentistry, facial aesthetics, and basic dentistry that is required for all.
The kind of thing that we would know normally.
Yeah, the thing that you'd kind of know normally, but also what we try to do is not refer out the practice. So each dentist has particular specialist interests that they enjoy doing, and we try to refer within house to try and keep patients
So there's
in
a
the
few
one
of you?
place. Yeah, there's 4 dentists in total,
Okay.
and a dental therapist, which is someone who is kind of like a baby dentist. You know, they do a lot of dental treatment, particularly for children.
Yeah.
But they don't do the whole gambit of dentistry, but they are excellent professionals in what they do.
Okay. And what's facial aesthetics?
Facial aesthetics is your Botox, your fillers. It's not something that we do a lot of, but you know, we have to find that we offer patients everything that they come in and ask for. You know, you've got to be able to offer all spectrums of dental and healthcare.
So what were your aspirations when you were at school, and did you always want to be a dentist? Was that something that interested you?
Yes. I always knew I wanted to be in healthcare, so I either wanted to be a doctor or a dentist. And initially, when I kind of finished school, I applied for medicine and dentistry. I got into both. But my mum at that point in time was a staff nurse, and there was a lot of pressure on her from doctors that she worked with who said that it wasn't a great profession at the time. Junior doctors were working increasingly long hours, over 100 hours a week, and they very much at that point in time saw their dental colleagues with Porsches and various other things. And so they both my parents really wanted me to go into the dental world, so I went off to the University of Glasgow to study dentistry for 5 years.
Excellent. Now, in between university and doing what you're doing now, I happen to know that you had a different career.
Yes.
So you were in the Royal Navy?
I was, yes.
So how did that come about?
Well, towards the end of dental school, I was a little bit, is this the career I want to do? I wasn't particularly enamoured with dentistry. And we had this career day where a whole load of dentists came and talked about various aspects of what you could do with dentistry. And one was a Royal Naval officer from Faslane Naval Base who came along and talked about life in the Navy as a dentist. And I thought, do you know what? That sounds great fun. Travel the world, cocktail parties, going on helicopters, all these various things. And I thought, I'm going to give it a shot. So I went down to HMS Sultan in Gosport, and we had a 3-day Admiralty interview board where we sat various aptitude tests, leadership tests, and then we were basically sent home in the train if you didn't get it through, or you were put through to the officer's wardroom as a reward for.
So you found out straight away?
You found out straight away, and I was actually with a friend from uni, and I didn't see him. He got put in the train and he went home.
Just disappeared.
He disappeared. So I was really lucky to join as an officer in the Royal Navy, and I spent 13 years.
Okay. And did you travel the world, go in helicopters, that kind of thing?
Travelled the world. So my first real kind of job coming out of Dartmouth after my vocational training as a dentist was to go to Plymouth, and there I was the one of the fleet dental officers. I then, as part of that group, went away on something called the NTG 2000, and we travelled 7 months around the world at sea with 6 ships, and I ship hopped, dependent either by helicopter, by boat, or by land, dependent on the situation and where I needed to go at the time.
So when you say you ship hopped from by boat and by sea, so my imagination now is these things you see on TV with people climbing up the kind of rope ladders on the side of ships. Is that a truism?
Yes. So I was either transferred where I had to go in a helicopter and then do something called rapid rope, where you had to go down a rope off the helicopter onto the ship's deck. I then either got transported via a rope between 2 ships, which is called a RAS, a replenishment at sea. That was a bit scary. They're not allowed to do that now. Or we had to go climb down the side of the ship, get into a little kind of rib, and then transfer to another ship and then climb up, sometimes about 50 foot on a rope ladder.
Fantastic.
Side of a ship. So
Sounds very exciting.
It was great fun.
Yeah.
I loved it.
And so what parts of that the actual, so that's the naval officer side of the job, I suppose, being in the fleet and doing the stuff that the naval advertising recruitment advertisements tell you got to do. What about the actual job of dentistry in the Navy?
So at times that you've got to make sure that everybody's dentally fit to be able to go to sea. A particular one is probably the submariners, where they're going underwater for sometimes 3-4 months, 5 months at a time. Now they can't come back up because somebody's got dental pain. So you have to make sure you spend a lot of time, you work really hard to make sure that various ships or boats are completely dentally fit so that there are no issues for the ships or the submarines when they're at sea. But also we have a war role. So I went to war with the Royal Marines, and we have a mobile dental unit which we take for forwards to any kind of war zone, and we treat either trauma. There was somebody that had injury to his rifle butt, it recoiled and broke his jaw. So, we kind of do emergency care for those kind of situations, but also during times of war and times of stress, you tend to find that there's more dental pain, dental abscesses. So we actually, in the first 2 months of the Iraq War, treated more patients than the medics did.
Oh, really?
Due to the kind of pain and problems that come out under stress.
And is this because of kind of grinding your teeth and setting your jaw, and is it all connected?
Well, that's connected, but also people become, at times of stress, lack of sleep, more immunocompromised. So bacteria, disease becomes more opportunistic, more prolific.
So you're out there literally frontline.
Yes.
With a load of Royal Marines and various other service people, and they're not coming far back to you to go, I need a filling, or whatever it might be.
No, and the whole point was, initially when we got there, I was back, and there was sadly an incident where somebody was travelling with dental pain, and there was 4 in an armoured vehicle, and it was attacked. So I kind of went to my colonel and said, can we please take my unit forward? It only takes me 7 minutes to set up, to put down. I'm not going to get in the way. But it will save that journey where you're putting service personnel at
risk,
danger and at risk for a needless, treatable cause.
Which you could do
instantly, just by being there, just by being on near the front line.
And what was the colonel's reaction to that?
He was very open, because by this point in time he knew that I would tell him the truth.
Yeah.
He'd got to know me. I was I was the first female to join the Royal Marines. I didn't do my commando course. One of my friends was the first green lid. But I think with all the challenges that I faced trying to integrate into the Royal Marines, he knew that when I actually said we needed to do something, I did it because of evidence.
Yeah, and it was the right thing to do.
And it was the right thing to do.
And if you'd have been argued down, you could probably put in some of that stubbornness that you have as a quality, shall we say?
Yes, well, I find certainly within the military as a female, where there are very few of you, I think there's this perception that you maybe can't do or you can't achieve the same as a man. And I think, if somebody said you can't or you shouldn't, then I always dug my heels in and thought, well, watch me.
I will, yeah.
I will. And I'm going to. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. I love that. I wanted to touch on that, actually, the kind of female in the services, because I know now there is an awful lot of equality, but it's a fairly recent thing. Certainly in our serving lifetimes, it was very different. What was it like? So that would have been the early 2000s, right?
Early 2000s. Yes.
Early 2000s. You've got a load of Royal Marine Commandos, an elite force. At the time, 100% male.
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much. And then you've got a Royal Navy female dentist who's kind of joining. What kind of challenges did those kind of 3 things produce for you when you're standing in front of this kind of fairly macho organisation, fairly masculine
Yeah,
organisation?
I mean, it's really difficult. I mean, you have to keep yourself really fit. You know, I had to do a lot of exercise. I remember the first night I walked into the wardroom and there's 37 Royal Marine officers, and you know, me as the only female. And you know, I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. And I thought, oh, yeah, you know, and you have to take a big deep breath and walk in. And I found that they were all very welcoming. There was a few that maybe weren't, you know, 100% happy, but I think like anybody in any new job, you kind of have to prove yourself and earn respect. I didn't walk in and expect it, you know, so I spent a lot of time trying to earn respect. There was various challenges, you know. I think sometimes they kind of maybe said no to things when they would normally have said yes, but actually once I kind of earned the respect from the Royal Marines, they were absolutely fantastic. They are such an amazing force of commandos, of men, now women, and it was an absolute honour to work with them.
Super.
It really was.
And so that was that tour out in Iraq.
Out in
Iraq. Where did you go next?
From Iraq, I went out to the US with the US Navy. I spent a year there doing an internship in oral surgery, which was basically removing and extracting teeth surgically. So I spent a year and all I did was extract teeth,
Brilliant.
which was about 4,000 teeth. So I was in my happy place. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, and there was quite a lot of education, very different with the US Navy, common language, different force. And from there, I went on to Germany to work with the army.
Excellent. Now, how was that?
That was different, but again, made very welcome, enjoyed working there. And spent a lot of time working with families in particular.
Good. Any more interesting tours?
I did a tour as the senior naval officer in Brunei, part of the loan service team out there. So I was at the naval base in northern Brunei.
So you got the whites then as well?
I had to wear their uniform, which was actually a white polyester full-length top and black, very thick trousers, which was very, very hot.
I can imagine. And you're out there for a while, and then you came back. And is that the point where you left the Navy?
I came home pregnant with my oldest daughter, and at that point in time, my career was going really well. I was an acting commander, and when I kind of phoned my appointer halfway through maternity leave, I asked what their plans were for me, and they had said they wanted to send me off to do staff college to get promotion to full commander, and then go on an aircraft carrier, which could potentially be away for 9 months.
Yeah.
And pre my daughter, I would have absolutely have loved that.
Yeah.
But actually, I thought I'm not going to see her, and I'm going to be a stranger to her, which I'd seen with various dads throughout my years within the services, and at that point in time, I thought I had to leave.
So at the time, you're newly married to James.
Yes.
At the time, a policeman, pregnant with your first child. You're on the way home, and you make the decision. Okay, so that's probably the end of my Navy career.
That's right.
I'll leave and I'll go. So thinking back, the right choice?
Definitely.
Yeah.
It was the right choice. It was very difficult. It took a couple of years to get over the Navy. It's quite a change to become a civilian, but it was without a doubt the right choice at that point in time.
Is that when you set up Bridge Dental Care, or did you go somewhere else?
No, I think that would have been really difficult to come out of the forces and, you know, open up your own business straight away, because I think you have to learn the business of civilian dentistry first. So I went and worked in a local practice, spent a couple of years within there learning the system. I had never dealt with money before. You know, we'd never charged patients, so I had to deal with doing treatment plans and patients actually saying no because they couldn't afford it, or they didn't want that, or within the forces, if somebody needed something, then they had to get it because they had to be dentally fit, where it was quite difficult for me to learn. You need a list of things, and somebody saying, well, no, I don't want it, and I'm not coming back, or I'm just not going to engage.
Right.
So I spent probably a couple of years just learning the ropes of being a civilian dentist, and then at that point in time, I thought it was the right time for me to move and open up my own practice. I think I was too used to being the boss.
Yes.
And I found it quite hard almost going back to a kind of junior officer equivalent.
So when you're in the Navy, that apart from the kind of the financial side and the marketing side and all that kind of stuff, you're running a dental surgery, you're running a practice.
Yeah, so when I left, I was running a dental practice. I run a dental practice in Faz Lane, which had 7 dental chairs, 7 officers as well. So you're not only doing the dentistry, you're also doing management. You're making sure that the dental surgeries are completely compliant in terms of inspections, that oral hygiene standards, and that all the cross-infection standards are kept as they should be. And you're also managing people.
Yeah.
And managing within the Navy, you were a divisional officer, you were managing their careers, but also their pastoral care as well.
So all that bit probably came to you more comfortably when it comes to kind of setting up your own business. But then, as you say, the commerciality of it probably is a good word, isn't it? The commerciality of it, of going, right, where do I buy it? What, do I rent a property? Do I buy a property? How many rooms do I need? How many surgeries? How much is a chair? All of that kind of stuff was completely new.
A lot, completely new. A lot of research. I had to spend a lot of time speaking to different companies, getting quotes, getting different prices, looking into, as you say, whether you buy or lease. If you buy a premises, what do you have to do to get it up to scratch? What building work has to be done? And then you have to look at, dealing with architects. You have to business planning, business plans with accountants, trying to get money from banks. There's an awful lot to do to make sure that when you start your business, you're actually good to go.
Okay, so you've done a couple of years in somebody else's practice, working as an employee, for want of a better word. You've learned a bit about the commercialization. 2 years, not an awful lot of time, but you've got a lot of commercial experience through that, about money and finances and how to run a business. And you set up Bridge Dental Care.
That's correct, yeah.
And you were lucky enough to find a local practice that was up for sale that you could take over.
Yeah, that's right. And it wasn't too far away. It was about 10 miles. I decided to go and have a look. There was a lot of work to be done, but it was a fantastic opportunity. And I decided that was the right move for me.
And what were your initial challenges with that?
My immediate challenges were the building itself needed quite a bit of modernisation. The surgeries needed new dental chairs. The whole building, in terms of trying to meet sterilisation rules and regulations, had to be completely reconfigured. But the main challenge was that there was an existing cohort of patients that still needed care and treatment. So I wasn't allowed to completely shut down for an extended period of time. So it was quite challenging to find builders that were willing to do an extensive amount of work in a very short space of time. But I did find somebody who was willing to basically bring in a full team, a bit like DIY SOS. And we shut the practice for 2 weeks. Floors were ripped up. There was new electrics put in, new plumbing. Walls were knocked down, walls were built. And then the dental teams, once all the building work was done, then the dental teams had to come in, refit cabinetry, put dental chairs in, x-ray machines. So there was an awful lot of coordination. In terms of working with architects, working with builders, working with planners, and working with the dental fitters who do all the work. I would say that was probably the most challenging few weeks of business. And then from there, you can't open and see patients until you've had an inspection.
So you've got to get signed off.
So you have to be signed off. So literally, there was one day where the builders walked out, and next day the NHS inspectors walked in to go through absolutely everything with a fine tooth comb. They even check that the seals on the floors are properly done. So everything is looked at under a microscope.
So you're kind of holding your breath waiting
for
this.
I must admit it was terrifying, but there was a really, really lovely inspector that came in who was very encouraging and offered a lot of great advice. And I'd like to say, is now quite a good friend from that. And then we opened, and I have to say it just flourished from that day on.
Superb. And going back to that stubbornness, how many people, did anybody tell you couldn't do it? Or
I think there was quite a few that thought I was biting off a bit more than I could chew at that point in time. I think a few felt that within family, you've got a good job, why not just stop?
Yeah.
You know, you're a new mum.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just calm down a wee bit here. But I knew that I needed to do this. I needed to open my own business
And push forward.
and push forward. Yeah.
And again, looking back, right decision?
It was completely the right decision. I love my business. I've got fantastic staff.
Mm-hmm.
I have great fun there. And it's mine, and I can make decisions and do what needs doing, and I don't have to wait for somebody else to make those choices.
Good. So here's a question for you then. So let me see if I can get this right. So you are Surgeon Lieutenant Commander Dr. Gillian Leslie.
I was.
Well, yes. But fundamentally, if we give you all of your earned titles, you're Surgeon Lieutenant Commander Dr. Gillian Leslie, and there's probably some letters after there as well.
Yes.
I'd imagine. So I would call that a success. Okay. Running your own business, it's a very, very successful, very healthy business. It's well known. It's got a good reputation. The person who leads it has earned some titles, and as you say, earned some respect through the life. Imagine that you bump into the young, as it was then, Gillian Murdoch, 12 years old, same age as or in between your daughters now. Mm-hmm. What bit of advice are you going to give her?
You can do anything you want.
And do you think she'll listen?
If it was me, probably no. At that point in time. No, I mean, you and I have both got daughters. I think it's very important that they know that they can achieve whatever they want.
Yes.
Whatever they want. Whatever they decide to do, they can do it.
With every possibility in the same way as anybody else.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Definitely.
100% agree.
Yeah.
Superb. Well, thank you for that chat, Gillian. Excellent. Really enjoyed that.
Thank you.
And if you want to learn more about Bridge Dental Care and Gillian's services, then please look them up online. Now, you can find more of our Business Roots chats with lots of interesting people like Gillian on your normal podcast platforms. But for now, good luck with your business route, and we'll see you soon.